Hey everybody, welcome to Monster Monday pre-show. This is DM Gallibond, getting all of the ancillary electronics all set up here. Getting ready to go for the show. Hey, as always, or always in the month of August, the music that you are hearing pre-show and that you will be hearing as a music bed behind my voice during this show, it all comes from Pipe Dream Hits. Pipe Dream Hits is relatively new music service made by streamers for streamers. You won't get any copyright strikes for using Pipe Dream Hits music on your YouTube videos, your Twitch live streams, or your streams and videos on other platforms like TikTok, Instagram, all of that kind of stuff. So, it's made with gamers in mind, and they have some really great stuff. So, also want to let you know that we want to send a big shout out over to Mo at the Tabletop Bellhop. Mo is the OG when it comes to all things tabletop games, card games, board games, party games, you name it, he's got it over at tabletopbellhop.com. And with that in mind, we're going to sit back, listen to some of the tunes, and get ready to go in about a minute here. Actually, about 40 seconds. Alright, I'm gonna move us over to the show background, and I'm gonna reduce the music so it's just barely audible. Alright, welcome everybody to Monster Monday. My name is DM Gallibond, and tonight on Monster Monday for August 23rd, 2021, we are going to do the second part of our two-part series on Slaadi. And this episode is going to focus on using Slaadi in your campaigns and fighting against Slaadi. Now, we have a wide range of Slaadi in 5th edition. That's what we're kind of going to focus on. So we're going to do a quick recap of the various types of Slaadi in 5e, and then we are going to go ahead and we are going to talk about fighting against them. All right, now if you want all the details on all of these, you can go back and watch the archive of Slaadi Part 1 from last week. But in 5th edition, you have Slaadi that begin at CR5 with the red Slaadi. The major thing about them is that when they attack, they implant a Slaadi egg, and after 3 months, that egg will hatch by killing the host, and it only implants eggs in humanoids. Then with CR7, there's the blue Slaadi, or the blue Slaad, and the blue Slaad will, their attacks can cause a disease, and that disease will eventually turn a person or a humanoid into either a red Slaad Or if they are a spellcaster, it will turn them into a green Slaad. Now, the red and the blue are the ones that have this kind of disease, and the after effects of fighting them will wind up killing somebody. Now, the green Slaad and Beyond, they are shapeshifters. So you are most likely to find green Slaad and above in 5th edition in the guise of humanoids. And a green Slaad is CR8, and it has some innate spellcasting abilities. At will, it can do detect thoughts, or detect magic, and mage hand. Twice per day, it can cast fear and cast invisibility only on itself, and once per day, it can cast fireball. And then the gray Slaad, they are a CR9 monster. They also are a shape changer, and they have innate spell casting. At will, they have the same at will spells as the greens, but they can also at will do invisibility, self only, and major image. Then twice per day, they can cast fear, fly, fireball, and tongues, and once per day they can cast plane shift, self only. Then you come up with the Death Slaad, which are CR10. Once again, building on the spell casting from the Greys, they have all of the same at will spells. All of the same spells twice per day: fear, fireball, fly, and tongues. And then once per day, they can cast plane shift and cloud kill. And then there's a big jump from the Death Slaad all the way up to Ygorl, Lord of Entropy. Such a fearsome character that he doesn't even have an image in 5e, although in our slide deck we do have an image of him back from 1st edition. He is a CR23 monster on his own. I say on his own, but he never appears on his own. We're going to talk a little bit about that. He has this entropic aura. If you end your turn within 15 feet of Ygorl, you take 46 necrotic damage. He has legendary resistance, magic resistance, innate spell casting. At will, he can do Blight, Blink, Chaos Bolt, Darkness, Detect Magic, Fly, and Shield. 3 times per day, he can do Circle of Death, Innervation, Phantasmal Killer, Symbol, and the Symbol of Discord only, 3 times per day. Twice per day, he can do Finger of Death, Harm, Mental Prison, Power Word, Pain. Once per day, he can do Power Word, Kill, and Power Word, Stun, and Symbol, Death Symbol only. And then you can also do the Weird spell. And a lot of those spells come out of Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Dragon serves the chaotic neutral Lord of Entropy. Why? I don't know. It's been that way ever since 1st edition. So, Gary Gygax said so. So, I guess we just have to live with it. Isn't that the rule in D&D? If Gary Gygax said so, you just have to accept it and live with it. Oh, wait a minute. Not at your table? You don't? Well, if you ever encounter him in my game, it's going to be that way because Gary Gygax said so. I know sometimes I ignore what Gary Gygax says, but in this case, I kind of like the idea of him having a super powerful companion / mount that he runs around on. Now, another thing that we are going to talk about tonight is we're going to talk about the Slaad control gems. These are all fragments of the spawning stone, which in lore is a stone in limbo that was put there by the prime of the Modrons to try to create order. But because this stone absorbed so much chaos, it winds up spawning Slaad, which are chaotic neutral monsters, and then each one of them has a fragment of this stone embedded in its skull, and that becomes important because if you get those stones out, you can then control Slaad, and we're going to look at that when we talk about how we will use Slaad in the campaign. All right, so that's a quick reminder of what the Slaad are in 5th edition. So now we will go into using them in encounters, and we will once again go through the various different iterations of Slaad. So using the red Slaad encounter, it's a CR5 monster. So for a party of level 3 characters, that's a hard encounter by themselves. If you put them up against a level 4 party, it's a medium encounter. If you want to turn that encounter up to a hard one, add a Slaad tadpole to the encounter, and it will become a hard encounter. Level 5 through 7, it becomes an easy encounter. And to make it a hard encounter at level 7, you can add one more red Slaad and a Slaad tadpole. All right, so then blue Slaad, those are the CR7 variety. And so for the blue Slaad, against a level 4 party, that's a hard encounter. At level 5, it becomes a medium encounter. You want to make it hard for a level 5 party, toss in a Slaad tadpole. If you from level 6 to 9 becomes an easy encounter. If you want to tweak the level 9 encounter up to a hard encounter, throw a second blue Slaad into the mix. All right, then the green Slaad, these are the CR8. And for a single green Slaad is a hard encounter for a level 5 party. At level 6 and level 7, it becomes a medium encounter. And if you want to make that level 7 encounter a hard encounter, you add a Slaad tadpole. And then from level 8 to level 10, it becomes an easy encounter. And to tweak that level 10 encounter up to a hard encounter, put a second green Slaad in the encounter with the first one. All right, so the gray Slaad. Gray Slaad is CR9 against a level 6 party. That is a hard encounter. Against a level 7 or level 8 party, becomes a medium encounter. And if you want to turn that into a hard encounter at level 8, you can add a Slaad tadpole. And then for a party from level 9 to 12, it's an easy encounter. And if you want it to become a hard encounter for a level 12 party, put a second gray Slaad on the board. All right. Now the Death Slaad is a CR10 monster. And when you throw a level 10 or a CR10 monster against a level 7 party, that is a hard encounter. For a level 8 or level 9 party, it becomes a medium encounter. To make it a hard encounter for that level 9 party, you can throw a Slaad tadpole on there. Now, a level 10 to level 13 party, it becomes an easy encounter. And again, at level 13, you want to dial that up to a hard encounter. You can add a second Death Slaad to the encounter. And last but not least, Ygorl, Lord of Entropy. If you want to create a hard encounter for a party of 5 PCs, well, you would only do that as a DM if you wanted to end the game. Because Ygorl is a CR 23 monster. As we just saw, he rides that ancient brass dragon, which is a CR 20 monster. So any encounter that you face against him would mean a level 23 monster and a level 20 monster, both that have legendary reactions, legendary resistances. They can, and they will use their abilities in concert with each other. So it would be a really, really, really almost impossible encounter for a level 20 party to face. So if you're going to use it, you would use this when your party has ascended into epic levels. Now, officially, so far in 5e, they haven't released any rules for adventuring beyond level 20. I've toyed around with some because I have one of the games that is running right now that I believe may go beyond level 20. But those are completely homebrew, and I have no idea how well they're going to work when and if we get there. So that's just something that is on the back burner for me. I will be curious to see in the years to come if they release epic levels, beyond level 20 for 5th edition. I think it would be interesting to see how Wizards of the Coast would handle that. All right, so my advice, your table, you can do what you want, but my advice is just don't put Ygorl, Lord of Entropy, in an encounter that you expect your PCs to fight. Now, you can have him there and have him be somebody that you don't expect your PCs to have combat with, but Ygorl is a chaotic neutral. He sees people. I mean, it's kind of like the Joker from Batman. It's just sort of a toss of the dice whether he's going to attack them, deal with them, or do something nice for them. I mean, it's just, you never know with this guy. So you'd have to be ready for just about anything if you threw him out on the board where your party could encounter him. All right. So now if you're on the other hand, if you are a PC and you are fighting against Slaadi, in general, what you want is you want to be agile and have a good healer in your party. The lower CR Slaadi, blue and red, transmit nasty surprises with their claws and bite. The red can implant an egg that kills a humanoid host in about 3 months when the spawn burrows out of it. And a blue can confer a disease that turns the victim into a red Slaad, or if they are high enough level caster, it will turn them into a green Slaad. Now, the higher CR Slaadi, as we've seen, the greens and above, are shapeshifter spellcasters, have magic resistance, and they regenerate hit points. The gray Slaadi, which are the highest color Slaad, have all the ability of greens, a wider array of spells, and natural weapons that are considered magical for purposes of damage resistance and mitigation. And Death Slaadi have all the abilities of grays with a wide array of spells at their disposal. You notice I didn't even bother talking about fighting against Ygorl. It's because in the rules that we have now for 5th edition, I just don't think it's practical to have him out there as an enemy. All right, so now if you are going to use Slaadi behind the DM screen and throw Slaadi at your party, I think Slaadi can be a fantastic long-term enemy for the PCs, with waves of Slaadi of different colors being set against the PCs as they gain more and more power. Now, how would you introduce Slaadi as an ongoing or long-term enemy? I think that there's two great ways of doing that when the party are very low level. The first one is to perhaps introduce them to Slaadi by having them encounter an NPC who is in the final stages of the Slaadi sickness from a red Slaad. And just to remind us, let us go back and look at the red Slaad and see what this sickness does. Humanoid host can carry a Slaad egg to term. Over 3 months, the egg moves into the chest cavity, gestates, and forms a Slaad tadpole. In the 24-hour period before giving birth, the host starts to feel unwell. Speed is halved, has disadvantage on attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws. At birth, the tadpole chews its way through vital organs and out of the host's chest in one round, killing the host in the process. So, this would be a great twist on the whole you meet in a tavern, where as you go into the tavern, there's a group of people sitting over there, and when you walk in, one of them looks pretty bad off. Okay, you can tell they're all a little bit higher level adventurers than you are, but one of them is really bad off. And so you're sitting there having your meal, and then over the course of the evening, this person starts to get sicker and sicker, starts to cough, and he coughs up blood, and then his companions at the table are trying to scramble, and then he suddenly convulses, and there's this big huge fountain of blood in his chest, and this little Slaad tadpole comes out. Yeah, that probably would not do very good for the house special at the tavern. The cook might get fired if that happened during the dinner hour at the tavern. Okay, so that's one potential way that you could introduce a low-level party to Slaad. But then let's take a look at another potential way. Alternately, the PCs might be hired to investigate disappearances of some commoners. And maybe they find out that there's like some sort of illegal slave trade going on. And they discover that people are being captured and taken maybe into the bowels of the city, like places that are now underground that haven't been used in many centuries. And they track some of these captives down there, and they discover some slave pens. And they go in and they start walking through these slave pens, and they see that most of the people in there, or some of them are kind of healthy, but some of them are really sick and whatnot. And then they get like to the last slave pen, and they hear some noise from inside it. And they wind up going inside, and they see a bunch of fresh corpses and several Slaad tadpoles feeding on those fresh corpses. And then they begin to come after the PCs, attacking them. Now, that would be a way to show the PCs that they're dealing with some really terrifying foes. So those are two ways I could think of. If you're going to have Slaadi being creatures that form a long arc and a recurring enemy in your campaign, that would be a great way of first introducing them to your party. So keep that in mind. Now, where would you place Slaad in campaigns? Now, we have the 5 different versions of Slaad. You can easily challenge your party all the way from level 3 into tier 4, given enough number of enemies. If you're taking your campaign into epic levels above level 20, you can even set up an ultimate encounter against Ygorl, Lord of Entropy, and his ancient brass dragon mount or companion, Shakiv. The Ygorl is a CR 23. Shakiv is a CR 20 monster, so party needs to be really powerful if they hope to stand a chance. Now, for even more variety, you can fill in some of those areas between CR 10 and CR 20 with Forgotten Slaadi from older editions of the game. And again, you want to go back to last week's archive and look at, as we examined all the Slaad, you have the Golden Slaad and Putrid Slaad, the Slaad Spawner, the Mud Slaad, the Black Slaad, the Flux Slaad, and even Sendum, Lord of the Insane. Sendum, Lord of the Insane. And again, he's another extremely high-level Slaad Lord, similar in power to Ygorl, that you would also might find in an epic level campaign. All right, but we talked a little bit about the Slaad gems and how the Slaad gems can be used to control Slaad. So let's just say you're not going into epic levels in your campaign. Let's say that you want the Slaad that your PCs encounter to be ones that are controlled by someone that has access to a lot. I mean a lot of control gems. Now, who might that person be? Who would be the mastermind behind that? Now, this spawning stone, where all the little fragments, the control gem fragments, come from, that's in the plane of limbo. So it would have to be somebody who has access to travel to and from the plane of limbo. Because there's a little piece of lore about that. If the Slaad spawns from the stone, and the only 2 types of Slaad that spawn actually from the stone are red Slaad and blue Slaad. Red Slaad, if they encounter red Slaad or blue Slaad, if they encounter enough magic, they will metamorphose into green Slaad. And then when green Slaad gain even a higher level of magic, they will metamorphose into gray Slaad. And then gray Slaad, when they undergo a special ritual, they will become death Slaad. So if you have an evil mastermind that is breeding Slaad, like through having blue Slaad and red Slaad go around and attack people, and having that create, Slaad thralls, then that mastermind would have to be able to take those Slaad to limbo, because the lore also says any Slaad that does not have a control gem or a stone in its skull, when it goes to limbo, it is drawn to the spawning stone, and when it gets close enough, a gem magically appears in its cranium. So then this mastermind could take the Slaad back to the material plane, subdue it, and extract that gem, and now have control over that Slaad. So have this picture in your mind. As I was thinking about this, I was thinking, where would you keep all those control gems? And the first thing I thought of was all those control gems would be on a bunch of necklaces hanging around your neck. Who from pop culture do we think of that has a lot of chains around their neck? That's right, Mr. T. Now, Mr. T, we all know that as an actor in films and in TV, and even when he was kind of on wrestling, he always had sort of this noble character arc, and he seems like a guy that wants to really do good. So you would never think of Mr. T himself as being a someone that would use Slaad for nefarious purposes, but if we just think of this person having this whole mass of all these control gems on chains around their neck, just dozens of control gems on each of these chains, so that he would be able to control the the green Slaad and the red Slaad and the blue Slaad and the gray Slaad and the death Slaad. As your party goes higher and higher in level and faces wave after wave of these Slaad, and eventually finds clues that lead them closer and closer to where this person is hiding out. Ooh, that could be a real interesting way of using such an evil mastermind. So what kind of person might that be? Probably a necromancer, evil cleric, or stark raving mad warlock. The implication of having all these control gems is that our villain has a way of traveling to Limbo, harvesting the Slaadi to bring them back to the natural world. And to control such volatile creatures as Slaad, even with their gems, the villain will have to be a powerful caster and perhaps a powerful melee fighter as well. That would be worthy of commanding such a chaotic and destructive army. So, just sort of an idea. Now, you guys may think of other characters from pop culture, but Mr. T was the first one that came to mind. All right, so now we normally talk about, towards the end of the show, we talk about how would you reskin Slaad. And Slaad, they make up an entire ecosystem unto themselves, complete with an origin story involving the overlord of the Modrons, and having a specific point of origin on the plane of Limbo. So to transpose and reskin the Slaad, you would have to basically take that entire system and move it somewhere else. Now, you may think of some other kind of alternative, and if you do, that's great. I was racking my brain, and I just couldn't think of any way that I would necessarily reskin that. But I just thought, okay, here's what I would have to do if I wanted to reskin it. So, if you want to reskin it, think of that entire origin story, plane of origin, tie to this physical point on that plane, and the reason that point of origin was even put there in the first place. And then, then you can think of coming up with something to just reskin and use the stat blocks of the Slaad, and then of course swap it out for other abilities that would make more sense. If you wanted to have something that was totally lawful, for instance, or something that was totally neutral, you could do that. All right. So this is the time when we normally go and take a look at any questions from the chat room. And right now I do not see any questions from the chat room. So what I am going to do, I'm going to go on into the wrap up, and then I will check chat again and see if you guys have any questions before we wrap up for the evening. All right. I have been DM Gallibond, and normally I stream 4 nights a week. On Sunday afternoons, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, there's my Planeswalking 5th edition game, The Walker of Waterdeep. On Thursday evenings at 8 p.m., it's my 5th edition Sword Coast Chronicles game, sort of our love letter uh, to the published campaigns from Wizards of the Coast. On Saturday night, we usually have our Saturday night Greyhawk game. That's at Saturday night at 7:30 p.m. Now, this week we will have a Saturday night Greyhawk game. We haven't had it the last 2 weeks because I have been at soccer matches. But we will be back this Saturday for a new Saturday night Greyhawk game. And you can find all of those live streams simulcast on Twitch and on YouTube. All of the archives of those are on YouTube as well. And let's go back to the Q&A. Let's see. Do we have anything here? Okay, I don't see any questions here on in the chat right now. So I am going to thank you guys all for hanging out this evening. Hope that you have a wonderful week, and I hope that we will see you again very soon on another edition of Monster Monday or some of the other shows that we do. And as always, I am going to sign off by reminding you to watch out for the monsters under the bed. Good night, everybody.